Hi, welcome to Real Life Learners, where we're always learning. My name is Ritu, and I'm back with another video. Last week, we continued our series called Who Has Your Key Part 2, and we talked about the door of self, how that's one of the first door we have to access when trying to figure out so many doors in life, when trying to navigate so many things in life. And part of that video, we also talk about the importance of knowing God for yourself because it dictates on your identity and you understanding who you are. We also listed 5 key things to consider when accessing the door of self. So today we're going to continue that because there's so many things we can consider when we're looking at the door of self. One of those important things is family. Where you come from affects how you show up in the world. Where you come from affects how people see you, and where you come from affects certain traditions that you have to continue or practice. So there's some people where the religion, for example, affect how they show up in the world. Some people where they are born affect how they show up in the world. So those are important things to consider when accessing the door of self. When you don't know who you are, you lose value on what is important about yourself. You don't know how special you are, and you don't know what you bring to the world. So it's very important when accessing the door to self to consider our family background and how it affects us and how we see ourselves and really understand that. So let's dive right into it. Why is it important to understand our family dynamics and how it affects us when accessing the door of self? It is important to understand your family background because there's certain things that runs in certain family. There's certain things that influence certain family. For example, if you're from a family where you were raised by a single mom, or you come from a broken home, which means both mom and dad was not present, or you come from a family or home that there's divorce, it affects how you grew up. It affects your self-worth, how you see yourself. So this is something to really consider. Sometimes, based on the family that you come from, you want to please your parents. You want to please people. So it kind of leads you into people pleasing. So based on that, you need to understand how it affects you. There's certain expectation. There's certain expectation to go to church, to know God for yourself, to go to school, to learn. And so sometimes with certain culture too, you're from a family where they don't really believe in too many friends, or maybe the world is not safe out there, so you find yourself as someone who stayed home a lot as a kid, or maybe you're a young person right now and you're probably still staying home. You don't really go around people, you don't have many friends. So then some of the things to consider is like, how am I like when I'm around other people? How's my social skills? Remember, social skills is just about communicating with others, how we show up when we're communicating with others, how we're able to relate to other people, whether it be actively listening to them, connecting, having empathy for other people. These are all social skills to consider. And so sometimes when you're a kid that, your parents, maybe you have a single mom and she has to go to work and she's like, don't leave this house. I don't want you leaving the house, lock the door, do your homework, look after your siblings, things like that. You find yourself alone a lot. And so when you're alone, there's a lot of thoughts that goes on in your mind. And so sometimes now growing up, when you're around other people, it's like you're just so desperate to make friends. You're desperate to connect with people. So sometimes you try to do things that will make people like you. And you see this a lot with students. They will do things to make other people laugh so they could have friends. If you have someone say, oh, that shoe is ugly, you're like, yeah, I don't like it, it's ugly, yeah, it's really ugly. So this is where you see where you start copying your friends. You want to be like them because you just never really had a lot of people around that you could relate to, and so you find yourself starting over learning social skills. So this is where you have to look at yourself and say, how's my social skill like? Am I like, when I meet people, I'm on my phone, I'm all like, hey, how are you, what's going on? Do I talk their ear off because I have not been talking to a lot of people and I have so much in and I just want to just let it out? I want to connect. Or, how is that like? So sometimes it's always good to reflect on it and to work on it, take active step to work on it. So I'm gonna stop here today, but I want you guys to consider, how do you show up in the world when it comes to, your social skills, when it comes to how you communicate with people, which is all part of social skill. Coming from a family background, the dynamics, the cultural, what is going to church, doing certain things, it affects how we show up. So today, I want you to think about it when access in the door itself. How does your family dynamics affect, how you show up? And again, I know we're wrapping up here, but another thing that just came to my mind is that some of us are not emotional. Some of us, we believe that, you have to be strong. You can't cry. You can't share your feelings. Life is tough. Your parents had it worse growing up. Who are you to complain now? So sometimes that affects you sharing when you're going through stuff with people, being vulnerable with people. It affects you, opening up with people. So all of these things, we don't realize it, but we hold a lot of things in. And so sometimes too, there's some things that happened to you when you were young that affects you. Maybe you blocked it out of your mind, you don't want to think about it, but it affects you as you start to grow up on how you show up in the world. Sometimes you're very standoffish, not really open to people, not emotional. And sometimes to also affect our emotions, it affects, our anger, how we manage our emotions. Do we have emotional intelligence? So when looking at our family dynamics and how it affects ourselves, we must consider, do we have emotional intelligence? Do we have social skills? How is our faith? How is our identity? How is our value, our self-worth? Some of us, our family did not have much money. We did not have access to a lot of information out there. We went to school. Our parents probably did not understand some of the paperwork they were signing. And so maybe you have someone who they could have been a basketball player, but their family didn't even know much about it, what to do, how to invest into certain coaches, go do this, go do that. And so sometimes you don't know that. And you're like, how can I get this going? You look at your friends and you're like, this is not where I came from. Our backgrounds are different. So when looking at other people, is not to be jealous, but to go with the learning spirit, but not to also copy them, because you can't just see something out there and just start doing it. You need to find out why that person does it, why is it important in life, and then before you can get into something. So let's say you're from a family where, you're told, you have to be strong, you can't show emotions, and you end up meeting up with some friends that sometimes they get emotional. They're like, I just feel like, when you did that to me, I didn't like it, and I just don't appreciate that. Next time you're like, why are they being so sensitive? So to you, it comes off like, oh, this person is so sensitive. So then this is where you look up and like, I noticed that when so-and-so always expressing themselves, they're always like saying how they feel and all that. I don't really know how to do that. Is that important? Nowadays you have Google, so you can look it up. How is it like to share your feelings? Is it important to share your feelings? Is it a good thing? So this is where you can validate some of the things you see when you go out there. Is it an important thing in life? Because you never knew it based on where you came from. This is your first time seeing that. This is your first time understanding that. And so if you're a parent out there, this is where it's important. No matter the dynamics of your family, you want to make sure your kids are sociable. Like, they know how to interact with people, they know how to communicate. They're not just like there, not how to say good morning, how are you, how's your day going, oh thank you, please, certain things like that. And also how to interact with their peers, because I see a lot of kids where they struggle with that, where they copy other kids because they just want to make friends. So this is where, again, like I said, understanding your worth, your value, who you are, all of it, again, is part of, our family background and how we show up. But sometimes there are cases where our family has nothing to do with, some of the decisions we make. And so based on where you come from and your culture and your family background, it affects how you show up in the world, and it affects how people see you. So that is all for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be back again with another video.